everybody, thank you for joining me today. So on today's video we're going to be using this Operation Right Home sketch number 97, and here it comes. Now at this point you guys can pause the video and go ahead and cut all of your pieces. Now if you want to mat this, I created a mat that was 4 by 5 1/4, and then I did my mat 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And then I cut all the pieces according to their measurements. Now on this one, because I wasn't going to be using mats underneath each individual piece, I decided to go ahead and ink my edges. So that way it gives them more of a definition from the background without adding the bulk of more paper. So once I got all that laid down, I decided to start with the upper right one. And on this particular video, it's going to be a little bit longer only because I don't know why. I think I always have issues with this type of a setup where it's supposed to look like it's even spacing between all the pieces. And for whatever reason, I always have the most difficult with these. And so as I'm laying down the individual pieces right here, it seems to be, everything is coming together and it seems to be working for the most part, lining up, okay? When I add on this piece, I'm like, why is there so much space in between? It seems like there's a much bigger space than what I was intending. And it's not looking right. But I keep going because I'm like, okay, I'm going to make this work. Even if I put it closer and then I just have to trim off a little bit on the side, which is what I'm doing here with my trimmer. I'm like, okay, it was a little bit longer. I'll just trim it down. Well, in trimming it down, when I went to cut my mat page for the card, the 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, as I'm playing with laying down my piece, I realized, you know what? You're not going to be able to see any of the mat. So, okay, I decided to grab the scissors and I tried to slim it down by a little bit. Like, still have there be a black line, but just trim it down a little bit. Well, after doing that, it still wasn't fitting right and it was looking a little crooked. Hand cutting to me, it works, but there are times when it's still not, it doesn't look right for whatever reason. So on this one, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna have to think outside the box here a little bit. So after a while, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna just put this in my platform, my cutter, and I'm gonna trim this down. Okay, and once I have it trimmed down, I'm going to make sure that it fits and fits straight on the white matte piece that I'm trying to put it on right there. So I'm going to go ahead and get this piece attached. Because I realize, okay, so whatever issues I'm having is not really the white piece of paper. I was able to get that the size that I wanted and it would fit okay. So I had to kind of think, well, what should I do here? So that way I can get everything lined up and looking correct. So once I did that one side, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and just trim off the black. And then when I laid it down, did you see it? You can see the crookedness. I was like, okay, if I cut all this straight and I'm laying it down straight and I'm just cutting the black edge off, why is everything looking like it's a hot mess? It doesn't make sense, right? So I decided, you know what, we're just going to take a little bit off of each side. So I'm lining it up in the cutter. And there really isn't no measurement at that point. I'm just trying to slide it up, have a little bit of a uh, edge taken off, but so that it straightens it at the same time. All right. So once I have it trimmed down, then I'm like, okay, so it's extra long on one side, but it's straighter and it's looking less cray cray. So I'm like, okay, there's hints of gold foil. It's in the sentiment that I want to use. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to cut me a new slim piece of the gold foil to finish off the one side. And then I would use some of the fun foam to lift up my piece on the other side. So we're just going to go ahead and attach this gold. And I like, if you find gold or glitter paper at different places, I would go ahead and get some because you never know when you can use it like this, like, a little accent on a card or on a layout, depending on what all you're creating. So I cut this to basically have an eighth of an inch border for lining it up on the white matte piece. And then once I laid it back down and I figured, everything's going to line up, I went ahead, like I said, and cut a piece of fun foam. And on this one, yeah, I taped it down. I put a bunch of ATG tape, and then I'm going to put some of the art glitter glue. And I'm putting the fun foam down, face down, because it's the side that doesn't have any of the adhesive. And on this side, I'm going to go ahead and stick it to the card. Now, what I like about this adhesive back stuff is if by chance I did need to pull it back up, which you're going to see in a little bit because I forgot that I wanted to put some string. So let me just finish putting the foam. All right. So now we're just going to put a little bit of glue on the back of the fun foam here because I did this one the opposite. I put the foam piece to the paper, and right there is where I realized I didn't add the gold thread that I wanted to add. Because that one side, there really isn't anything over there, and I was just thinking, you know what, it probably just needs a little something. It doesn't have to be crazy, but it's just a little, interest on that section. And then since I had, pulled it up, I decided to put some of the art glitter glue behind it, so that way, once I press it back down, we're good to go. And then I'm just fussing with the uh, gold thread. And then really and truly, the card is pretty much done as far as what the sketch and everything looks like. However, I realized I want to put some Nuvo drops. So I went and grabbed the black, and I'm going to go ahead and put 3 dots up in the far right corner, the top right corner. And that finishes it out. So here are some close-ups. Um, as you can see, the different layout, the spaces between each one, they're not completely even on mine, but I think it still turned out good, and you still get the same feeling from that sketch that we created here. Okay, so thank you guys so much for joining me. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and share button. And I'm going to put links to some previous Kaisercraft paper pads collections down below, okay? And here we're going to have previous videos from Friday sketches. So if you haven't seen all of them or if you missed some, you can just click here. Thank you guys and have a great weekend.